Predictions, guys. Indians record, Haddix.
As far as the actual number, doesn't matter to me. But I do think the best they do will be in chase for the wild card. I don't think they win the division.
Hougie.
I think they'll go over 80 for sure. I'm pretty confident they'll go over 80 wins. I'm kind of with Haddix though. The Royals are just too much of a well-oiled machine to not take it. But I don't count them out. But I'll definitely give them more than 80 wins.
I'm actually going to have them just below 80. I got them at 78 wins. I don't even think we sniff the wild card.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but...
Welcome, everybody, to episode 31 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for August 5th, 2016. I am your podcast host, and joining me in the studio today, Mr. Josh Haddix.
I was expecting some type of baseball thing on the field today.
Yeah, I was not sure. We did Stadium last time, so I really didn't know what else I could say. And, of course, Mr. Kyle Hoagland.
What's going on, everybody? I don't even think you even introduced yourself. I think you said, I'm your podcast host, and then you just flew through.
I don't know.
For those just joining us, you'd like to give everyone your actual name.
I'm Josh Kiser, if I did not tell you guys that. And
I don't think you did, but I could be wrong. But either way,
heaven forbid you actually listen to what what's being said as we're recording here.
Hey, I'm too busy enjoying the doilies that are in this the spare bedroom at my in-laws' house. I'm enjoying week 2.
Who's this fella named Doilies?
This guy over here. I've never seen so many pillows with like embroidered patterns before. It's very grandma-ish. I'll say that much. I think these are probably pillows that were passed down.
It sounds, lovely, I guess.
It is very lovely. This is the only way to do a podcast, by the way. Just laying on a bed. Just got my head propped up with my left arm, and just laying here in like a pose.
Heaven forbid you listen and record in an actual studio. Instead, you're dozing on Grandma's doilies right now while we're recording a podcast.
This is very accurate. I'm also in a kind of a somber mood because I literally I came into this room after just watching like the first hour of The Patriot, which is it's always a movie that
like the Tom Brady.
It's hard to have a dry eye watching that movie.
It's Kaiser's dad's favorite movie.
Well, fun fact for
everybody. It's a great movie, honestly.
Yep. Indeed, it is.
It was fun to enjoy Mel Gibson before he lost his mind.
That's true. My favorite. I think the most emotional scene is when that little girl is like, he's leaving, and she's like, "Daddy, no, I'll talk, I'll say anything."
Oh God, oh man, so.
I don't think I got that far. I think when I walked in here, it was when Benjamin was basically just destroying this already dead guy in the back with a tomahawk like 30 times, and he's just like bathing in his blood. And his sons are just staring at him like, Dad, you good? I think he's dead. So that's where it ended for me.
That's actually a true representation of Mel Gibson, in fact.
And his kids.
Probably, likely. What has everyone been up to? I feel like, Hax, I haven't seen you in forever. Oh, by the way, happy belated birthday.
Happy thank you.
30th.
I just saw you last Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really that long ago. You're in town.
All of us went out except you because it was your birthday. We went downtown to Maples, which was delish. A little expensive though.
Yeah, I don't know if I would go back, honestly.
I mean, Jason talked it up pretty good.
I would rather get my food at Billy's Mart and just cook it home.
Oh, you know what? Thank you for reminding me of that. So our friend Shannon, our biggest fan, super fan, she got married over the weekend.
Which is part of the reason you're in town. So congrats to Shannon.
The reason why I'm in town. And I stayed at the hotel we got a hotel room at the place where like the rest of the party was. So this is after the wedding. We're outside just having a drink, and here comes Shannon, bubbly old Shannon, comes up and she's like talking to me like she's upset with me, and she's like, "You guys never mentioned me anymore. Like you guys mentioned me in like episode 3." And I listen to every podcast, and I never get any recognition of being your super fan anymore. And I told her, I'll tell you what, we'll give you a shout out this week because obviously we're going to talk about this. And then secondly, maybe we can get a new God, I can't even think of the word right now.
Sponsor?
Yeah, let's get rid of Billy's Mart as you know what, as much of a big get it was to get Billy's Mart. I feel like Shannon and her new business, Shannon Sands / Schneider's Butt Plugs Emporium. I feel like that would be, trying to help out a friend's business. So if anyone's in the market for a butt plug, Shannon Sands / Schneider's Butt Plug Emporium.
I mean, I didn't know where that store was going when we started, and butt plugs and whatever was not where
we expected to end it by any means. Coming up in today's podcast, though, we're going to be talking about baseball, so there's that.
Speaking of butt plugs.
There's one way to plug
baseball or butt plugs at this point.
That's true. Yeah, we're going to talk baseball. We're in the middle of the baseball season, a little past midway point. We usually do these things about the All-Star break, but that was during our video game month podcast, so we couldn't do it. So we're gonna kind of recap, the big stories. Trade deadline happened, so it's actually kind of a good time to talk about it, discuss probably pretty good trades that were, some big trades that were made, as well as discussing the Cleveland Indians as we are local fans. And Cleveland has a relevant team right now. So
do I still count, even though you guys keep telling me that I'm a San Francisco homer at this point? Am I now a Giants fan, or can I?
Oh yeah, you can weigh in all on the Giants and how they're doing this year, Kyle. We'll be sure to listen,
just like you did with the Golden State Warriors, and that went well for you, right?
That's right.
This is what happens. You put all your eggs in one basket and think that your team, my team anyway, is the Golden State Warriors. Damn, they were so close.
And yet, so far away. There's always next year.
There's always next year.
So let's just get into the baseball topic. Of course, a reminder to everybody out there, of the three big sports, baseball is by far, I think, at least with me, my weakest knowledge as far as professional sports go. I don't know if you guys would agree with that yourselves, but it's the weakest of the three for me.
I probably know as much about hockey as I do baseball. That's not true. I know a little bit more about baseball because we actually have a major league team here. But other than the Indians,
I feel like the season's so long, and it just seems like there's just a time where it's like wins and losses don't matter until it matters. If that makes sense. Like right now we're about to get swept by the Twins, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. It sucks that we're losing to the Twins, but in football, like wins and losses, going to the playoffs is like the matter of like one game, and basketball is short enough that after their All-Star break, games start to people start picking up the pace and being more serious about it. So yeah, as far as trying to follow all the ins and outs, I usually try to rank interest and excitement of following a sport based on how much fun it is to play it as a fantasy sport. And by far, baseball is the worst sport. I'd do golf before I do baseball fantasy.
To be honest, I never found fantasy basketball, to be much enjoyable either. But
But at least in that one, that's very like single player driven. So like you do want to have superstars on your team. Where I feel like in baseball, you can have a guy like Max Kepler or whatever the hell his name was 2 nights ago hit 3 home runs, but no one's going to start Kepler in your starting lineup. But at least like I feel like there's enough players if you were to do like a basketball league that most of your guys are going to be big names that are going to be your consistent.
Well, I think that has to do with the amount of players on each team as well that are going to. I mean, with basketball, you're only going to be starting. 7 or 8 players are going to be playing on any given team on any given night, and you're probably only going to have 3 to 4 of those players drafted into a fantasy league. So it's a lot easier to track. Where baseball, it's all over the place.
I feel like baseball is like the most statistical sport where if I was going to do fantasy with them, like FanDuel, like one of like the 1 day or 1 series leagues or whatever, however the hell they do it, it would be totally based on who's pitching against what, who's strong against left and right-handers. That's just such a waste of time and like just brain activity to go through that. The smartest people, I think, do baseball because there's so much analytics involved. But for the normal fan, for the one that just enjoys sports, that doesn't want to go through all that, it's just like I feel like you're already innately at a disadvantage against the people who really, really are crazy about the sport.
Yeah, I mean, if you love stats, you love math. Baseball's a sport to be. I mean, there's always numbers crunching. There's all kinds of weird statistics. One thing I'll give baseball is that any given night for a sport that has been around as long as it has, any given night you can witness something that hasn't been done possibly ever or in 120 years or something like that. So it's always interesting to see that kind of stuff.
That's where that saying "any given Sunday" comes from, right?
In a sense, I guess.
I think so. I think
that's football.
But yeah, like I said, there's so much history behind the game, and it's been on for so long, and there's so many stats. Yeah, every time I get on ESPN and like watch SportsCenter, there's always something somebody did that's been the first time in 30 years, and it's just like, does it become then kind of like uninteresting if something happens only once every 30 years, but really it's like that's not that interesting to me. Like a pitcher who like first time in 30 years he's pitched 4 straight, starts past the 8th inning with less than 3 hits and more than 9 strikeouts.
Well, when you get into stats like that, yeah, I mean it gets a little crazy, but like it's kind of interesting. So like the other day, the Mariners lost to the Cubs when the Cubs pitcher. It was the 12th inning, and the Cubs pitcher, pitchers typically, like in the, hitting the National League, they'll try and bunt. He had 2 strikes, and he literally bunted it. They ran a squeeze play, and he bunted in the game-winning run. So, I mean, it's like things like that are cool to see that you don't see every day. And it turns out that was like the first time it had happened in like 7 years, which I was like shocked. I thought it would have been a lot longer than that. So sometimes even those kind of stats are cool to see.
Well, a lot of times towards the end, especially in the National League, especially in the 12th inning, if they're going deep into the bullpen, those pitchers aren't staying on long. Usually that's when you get your pinch hitters in to try and end the game and not have your pitcher hitting in the 12th inning.
Yeah, but I mean that they had the pitcher in, so I thought that was pretty neat. But we since I brought up the Cubs right then, let's just talk about the Cubs. Obviously, they were one of the hot teams to be picked to go to the World Series this year in the preseason. They started out just as hot as you can get, and people thought like they were going to give the Mariners single season record for wins a run for its money, and they kind of died off. And now I think they're kind of sitting with a handful of other teams as far as records go. I don't know as of today where they sit as far as the standings go, if they're first overall or not. But
the Cubs right now have the highest win percentage of any team.
I was going to say I was gonna delve in on that. I feel like their cool down wasn't really necessarily a bad thing. It was just that they were so good. I mean, yeah, they're still up. I think they're still up 10 games, and it's the biggest margin of any division or whatever. So
yeah, I mean, but they're like
they were so good that they lost. I think they lost like 9 of their last 12 right before the All-Star break, and they were fine. Like that didn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, but they're not. They're now right in the mix as far as wins with a handful of other teams. They have the best record in majors, but not by much. They started the season out absurd. The first 30 games, I think they had lost like 4 of them or something crazy. So
right. I think they're only beating the Nationals by maybe 3 games.
2. Nationals have 64 wins. The Cubs have 66.
Well, also, the Nationals also have 44 more losses. So as far as percentage is concerned...
Damn, they have 44 more losses?
Jeez.
Wow, there must have been a lot of rainouts for the Cubs.
Christ, guys. 44 losses versus 41 losses of the Cubs. So they have 2 more wins and 3 less losses.
Also, the Cubs have 41 losses, and the Nationals have, 85 losses then?
85 losses, yeah, exactly.
44. Man, wow.
Man.
They must
Dude,
have
we were
had,
just talking about how
no rain delays at all.
We're talking about how just any given Sunday, man, anything can happen. There you go.
Well, you say it's a long season. That's a lot of fucking games. That's a real long season.
That's a lot of losses.
That's great. Yeah, the Nationals had 20 more games played than anybody else. That's interesting. All jokes aside, though, I think the Cubs are up about 4 games overall as far as the best record.
Okay.
Which once again, I think at one point they had 12 more wins than anybody.
Do you see them? I mean, they've got basically a 10-game lead on the Cardinals in the Central. Do you see basically what they're doing now sort of going through the rest of the season? I mean, they're not going to dominate like they did before, but they're still going to maintain that lead, or do you think that they're slumping and it could get worse?
Well, I can't imagine the Cardinals all of a sudden catching up on 10 games at this point. So, I mean, if you're asking me, do I think that the Cubs have a chance to blow the Central? No. If they do, that's historic at this point. I mean, we only have
that's like being up 3-1 in the NBA Finals and then blowing it historic.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll put it up there. I mean, that was the first time that's ever happened, and this will be. I would venture to guess there's a very small number of instances where somebody who had a 10-game lead on the division in the month of August to blow it. I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I like to think that's probably a very small number.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sure it's a small number. I swear there was one very recently. It could have even been last season where there was like a huge collapse and it was like really embarrassing. And I can't think of what team it was.
I thought it was the Red Sox like a couple of years ago, where they it was one of those. Do you remember a couple of years back when it was? I think it was the Yankees. No, they think the Yankees were out. It was the Orioles, the Red Sox, and the Rays were all fighting for the last wild card spot, and it literally depended on the last game of the year, where the Rays beat the Yankees and the Orioles beat the Red Sox. And by doing that, it screwed. I think it screwed all 3 of them out of the playoffs, except for Tampa Bay, who was able to barely beat out the Yankees, who had already won the East. So all 3 of them were in contention in the Eastern Division to get a wild card shot, and it ended up coming down to the Rays beating the Yankees to then overtake.
I have it right here. You're right. 2011. The Red Sox blew a 3-2 lead over the Orioles after having Baltimore down to its final strike. The Yankees blew a 7-0 lead over the Rays just a minute later.
Longoria went nuts in that game.
Boston held a 9-game lead over Tampa Bay in the AL wild card after Labor Day weekend, but the team's now infamous penchant for fried chicken and beer eventually caught up to them. The Red Sox lost 20 games in the month of September and became the first team in baseball history to miss the playoffs after holding a 9-game lead in the final month of the season.
And that's September, too. So, yeah, that's historic. That's blowing it real bad. That's like Josh Haddix blowing bad type of
Well, for what it's worth, yeah, exactly, yeah. I think I'm reading the same article as you guys with the Mets in 2007, 7-game lead on September 12th. Lost that.
That's the same article. Yep.
Like, damn. So,
but the Red Sox was exactly the one I was thinking about, Kyle, because I think that's when Francona got fired. Actually, was after that season because of the whole fried chicken and beer thing. And I think when he got hired,
if it was a fried chicken beer thing, he was definitely on the team because I didn't know if when Bobby Valentine took over, or was it Bobby Valentine who took over afterwards? I don't remember, but yeah, it was. I just remember like that was so. It wouldn't have been such a big deal if it was just all right. These three guys are real close at the end of the season. It was huge because no one had any business getting that wild card spot but the Red Sox if they just didn't play historically bad in September. So, yeah, so now we're in August. They've got practically a 10-game lead. So clearly there is a chance. But, I mean, it's playing historically bad. And for the most part, the Cubs have been pretty steady. They've either been really awesome or, they cool down for a couple series. They got Aroldis Chapman. They got probably the best hitting lineup in baseball. Their pitching is just good enough. I don't see them getting any unless somebody really a couple guys get hurt down the line. I don't see everybody getting cold at once.
I don't know. It's Chicago, dude. The weather does get kind of chilly there.
How many jokes is this? You're on a roll. This guy's now officially back at 100%.
I do feel a lot better this week. So hopefully my voice sounds better. I didn't even recognize myself last week when we were recording.
I will say overall the National League just in general is strong this year. I mean, just looking at the standings and also like the Nationals, I feel like are just quietly being really good. I feel like everyone expected the Nationals to do well. So for them doing well and the Giants are doing well, I think that was expected. And I think that once again, I think the Cubs were expected to do fine, but I think they also expected the Central to be a little bit more of a battle than what it ended up being. I mean, the Cardinals are only 6 games above 500. They've been pretty quiet. I haven't really heard much about the Cardinals just because of how dominant the Cubs have been in the Central. But they've just been the Cubs have definitely been the flashy team in the National League, but the Nationals and the Giants really aren't that far behind. And
it's true.
I think as far as a complete team, I would look more at the Nationals and the Giants. Just as far as like overall pitching and hitting.
Of course you would, you frickin' homer.
I know.
Oh, homer. Oh, okay. I didn't know where we were going with this. But yeah, the Cubs have been probably the strongest bats, or the loudest bats anyways. But the Giants and the Nationals have been a much more complete team, and I think they're playing what people would expect it to be.
Yeah, it'll be interesting going forward. Let's move over to the American League here for a minute and discuss the Kansas City Royals. Yeah, what a disappointment their season's been. They're currently 4th in the AL Central, and if the Indians keep playing the Twins, the Royals could drop to 4th or to last. The way the Twins keep owning us. What do you guys think's going on in Kansas City?
I'll go again. I mean, I was going to let Haddix say so, but they've been hurt. I mean, they've had a lot of injuries. They also kind of went all in last year. They got a lot of. They were one of the big winners in the trade deadline last year. Picking up Johnny Cueto, and it's just they don't have that depth at starting pitching anymore. Salvador Perez is hurt, who was the MVP of the World Series last year, and it's just those guys really. They're good players, and they play the system well.
It was like they all overperformed last year, too. Like, they all hit it together, and, like, this year they're all slumping together.
Yeah, they've always been about, like, get on base, have speed. It's almost like it's playing, like, small ball. That's what they are. They're a small ball team. They're not a home run hitting team. They're not a team that's going to light you up with a bunch of runs. They're like they're the team that, like, a guy gets a single – he'll probably see if he can steal second, sacrifice the guy to third, and then get the guy home with a single or a sac fly. That's how they've always played. And then just playing that small ball, and then having a decent starting pitching, and probably they had one of the best relieving cores in the American League. So the problem right now is that they're not scoring enough, which has always been kind of the problem.
No, they had at one point they had like a 6-game losing streak where they lost 6 games in a row where they didn't put up a single run or one or less runs or something crazy. A stat that I saw that like no defending champion has done it since 1920. So, I mean, they definitely struggled.
They're in last place in runs scored with 410 in the American League. Now, National League, just traditionally, some teams will be.
It's a whole
lower.
different. Yeah, it's a different.
Yeah. But as far as American League standards, they are dead last this year.
That's the Royals of old, right there.
That's the Royals I remember.
Yeah, all I was going to say was what you touched on, Kiser. I feel like at the end of the year last year, they just all gelled at the right time, and so far this season, I feel like no one's done well on their team, and that's their problem.
Yeah.
And can you agree though that a lot of times the team that comes into the playoffs with the hot bat and the hot hand is very poised to being, a real contender to go into the World Series. It seems like the last couple of years, the wild card winners have been the ones that have been pushing their way through to get to the World Series. I know the Giants, I think both times that they won it were both wild cards. They didn't win the division both years that they won the World Series. Or at least one time. And I want to say both times they were wild cards. So it comes down to, like I said, it's all about gelling towards the end of the year.
It's about getting hot at the right time, yeah.
Yep.
Which is why it scared me when the Indians got hot early this season.
Well, we had that 13-game winning streak and stuff.
Yeah,
which
you just don't want to get hot early, but...
well, it's not a bad thing to get hot early as long as you don't cool down right after.
It was right at the All-Star break, though. That's the other problem, too, is that you get like doing so well, and then you take like 4 days off, which in baseball terms is an eternity being off.
Especially when you're like the Nationals and you're playing 95 games the first half of the year.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's going to do that.
That's my point about getting hot early is it's not football where you could be hot the whole season. If you get hot real early, I mean, you got a lot of games to play. I mean, it's like what we were talking about with the Cubs. They got real hot early, and now they're cooling off, I guess, if you will. But
well, I mean, they've won 7
really,
of the last 10, so I mean, they're doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, but really, they're just playing, average baseball now. Above average baseball right now compared to being hot as shit earlier on. So it's like you just got to get hot at the right time.
Well, you started talking about the Indians. Let's talk about them. They're probably one of the surprise stories of the year. I mean, did anybody see them doing what they're doing?
Surprised our host.
I mean, I'm just going to say I predicted 78 wins for them. They're currently 18 shy of that, so anything's possible. I'm not completely out of it yet. As long as they only win 18 out of their next 60 or so. So
God, I hope that doesn't happen.
As a team that last year Sports Illustrated said, look out for the Indians to make it to the World Series. The lineup's not astronomically different, and neither is the pitching rotation. So
the pitching was good last year. The pitching was very good last year, and the pitching this year has been very good. Actually, up until recently has been phenomenal. The biggest question mark for this team was our bats, as is usual. And, Michael Brantley was still out. I mean, and he was MVP, what, he finished second or third or something in the voting last year?
Ago.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it was
2 years.
2 years ago.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, you get a guy like that, like, that's a major part of your team not playing. So, like, especially when it comes to the bat end, you kind of expect, like, well, the pitching's really going to have to carry this team. And surprisingly, this team, Mike Napoli, who was signed on as one of those, like, let's see what, maybe we can catch lightning in the bottle. Well, lightning struck about 14 times in that bottle because Napoli's leading the team with 26 home runs this year. And to put that in perspective, Carlos Santana was the leader in home runs for this team last year at 19. And this year, Santana already has 23.
Something like that now, too.
He's got
out of his mind.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, Kipnis is third with 17 himself already. So, like, this team is hitting the ball a lot better than they were last year. And, it's part of the reason for their success is definitely, what Napoli's brought to this team for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And they made some good moves at the trade deadline. I feel like right now, I don't remember who I think I said the Orioles. I mean, the Orioles are still doing well. They're barely atop top of the American League. That's going to be an interesting race between the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Orioles. I still think overall the Orioles will pull it out, but I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel yet about the Indians in the postseason, just because of how, I don't know, they're kind of limping in right now. I understand that it's still a ways to go, and I think things are going to be fine. But I mean, right now it's just been, why are we getting swept by the Twins? Like, it's not even good baseball. I have to playing them, but I actually looked back and looked at some of the stats of the Twins. The Twins have a winning record against the Orioles, the Indians, and the Rangers, and then everyone else they suck at.
It's just one of those weird stats right there.
It's baseball for you.
Yeah, but Haddix, what do you think about the Tribe's surprising record so far this year?
It definitely was surprising, even though we didn't pick. What'd you do? 78? Is that what you picked early? Or
that's what I picked. Yeah.
Season? I mean, I think Hougie and I were. What were we in the 90s? Hougie, I think.
Hougie had at least 80, but he said they were gonna go after the wild card. You thought they might be a wild card team as well.
Yeah, and I think they still might be. I kind of agree with Hougie. I'm a little worried about. We got kind of to what I was saying earlier. We got hot early, did real well, and I'm not so worried about losing a series to the Twins. I mean, you don't want to get swept by the worst team, but at the same time, there's so many games, so you can afford to do that. But I do think that at the end of this, we'll be playing for that wild card spot, and I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you. It's just...
What did we say about the Royals? Did we even talk about the Royals during the first podcast? If we thought,
oh yeah, you said that they were
going to drop off.
You said they were a well-oiled machine, and we're going to win the division easily.
Okay, well,
the Royals,
right?
Yeah.
Hey, they're only 10
that well-oiled machine.
Yeah. So you kind of briefed on it. Let's just get into the trade deadline. There was a lot of big moves taking place, and we'll start with the Indians. Credit the GM and this team that realized this team is competing, and let's go out there and make a move. And we traded for Andrew Miller from the Yankees. That was one of the big ones, one of the big relief guys, and it really helped kind of solidify this lineup as far as pitching goes.
Well, and then he comes in his first. He pitches against one guy, and the guy hits a home run. I think it was Joe Mauer. He goes in and hits a home run off of him on his first appearance. I mean, he had no business being in that game, but it's just one of those things. Like, okay, this is the guy we traded for. He's an all-star reliever for the Yankees, and he pitches against those three pitches and gives up a home run. Once again, the game, I don't think that mattered. I think we were out of that game against the Twins anyways, that first game. But just for people who know better than to judge somebody on their on one appearance, but for other people that's like, oh god damn it, like this is the guy we got, and he just gives up a home run in his only batter that he faced.
I mean, I'm not worried about what he did in his first game. I think it was a great move for them to do. The Cubs went for Aroldis Chapman, who was another reliever that the Yankees had. And the Cubs made that move, and a lot of people thought that was, he was probably the hottest commodity at the trade deadline. Miller was right there. And for the Indians to do that, I mean, it was big news. And
let me ask you this real quick, both of you. Do you think those trades, like us being aggressive and going after those players, would have happened if the Cavs didn't win a championship? Like, do you think that affects the Indians at all?
No, I don't think it does.
I don't think that plays into like that championship mentality.
No, I don't. I think maybe it's in the back of the players' minds, like, oh, that would be cool. But there's no way they're not making that move because a team in another sport won a championship in this city. That's not why they did it. They did it because I think they realized, like, this is the best opportunity this team has had. They're playing very good baseball, but they know that, there's a couple of holes. That was a big one. Is our bullpen needed some help, and to be able to go out there and get that was big. And what I liked about it, where Chapman is basically a rental because he becomes a free agent at the end of the season. Miller's under contract for another 2 years. So this whole pitching staff that we have is all completely under contract for a couple more years. So the Indians are going all in this year, but they're also, they've got a couple of years else where they still be very competitive with this team. And if you get Brantley coming back with this too, I mean, it really sets them up for a good, race to the finish and into the postseason. So I don't think the Cavs had anything to do with it. I think literally they recognized what they had, how this team's playing, and they said, let's go out there and get see what we can do. We'll give up our farm system because nothing's guaranteed and there's no guarantees for tomorrow. Like, let's win now. Let's do it now.
And they have to also, because this is the Indians. This is Cleveland in baseball. So we're a mid-market team. We get maybe one decent opportunity every 7 years. So this is our opportunity to do it. So it's like, we're not the Yankees or the Cubs or the Rangers or people like that where, they can go all in on certain moves. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll screw it. They've got money to sign people and to rebuild's a weird thing to say, but they have the ability to, replenish the team if it doesn't work out. The Indians, if we just get rid of the whole farm system for a couple of guys and we completely just, especially on moves like Aroldis Chapman or like guys that we couldn't keep under contract, if we don't pull it off, then we're looking at another 6 to 7 years of mediocrity.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Haddix, did you have something you wanted to add? Or
I was going to say, you I think Hougie and I touched on it, but with your preseason prediction of 78 wins, and then with what you just said about the Indians, what would you predict their rest of their season looking like?
The rest of the season, I think this team's got a shot for 90 now. I mean, they're going to.
Do you think they win the division?
We own the Tigers. I don't honestly. I'd have to look at the rest of the Indian schedule to see how it lays out. Part of it's going to depend on this. Was it Carrasco that just went to the DL?
Salazar.
Sorry, yeah, Salazar. So I mean, it's going to depend on some of that stuff if he's okay and it's just a short term kind of deal. But yeah, I mean, I think they've got a real shot at winning the division. I think I changed my tune. I think they're going to take the division. I think
so. 90-ish wins, win AL Central is what you're saying now.
That's what I'm saying now. Okay. I mean, they made the moves. One of the other moves they tried making was trading the Brewers to get Jonathan Lucroy, the catcher, and he had one of those no trade clauses that he can, as a player, choose to basically veto the trade. And he did so.
Here's my question on that. I was reading something that said he can veto trades he could only veto trades to certain teams.
I don't think it's certain teams. I think
there's a list of teams on his no trade contract that says I can't be traded to these.
I think
the Indians are on that list.
I think it's not that it's. I think he has the option of. He had a list of teams that he said I don't want to be traded to these teams.
No, it's on the contract. It's literally on his contract. There was a list of 9 teams or something like that said that if the club agrees to a trade to any of those teams, they have to bring they have to bring the contract or bring the agreed trade deal to Lucroy to say you have the power to veto this if you want.
That's what I thought I read too. Was that there was literally teams.
Yeah, there was like 9 teams or something like that. Yeah,
and I'm curious as to how did he choose those teams when he signed the contract, or
must have
what's
been
that based on? Like that was like weird to me that the Indians.
I think it's up to the player. I'm assuming at that point it must be. Maybe he picked teams that have been notoriously not good or in locations that he doesn't want to move his
big contracts, things like that. Like, so if he's looking for money and being able to be traded somewhere where he can get like a long-term deal for a lot of money, the Indians aren't going to be it. So a lot of those mid-market ones are the ones that he's going to be putting on that list. So he's not going to turn down the Yankees or the Rangers or the Red Sox or something like that, like who they can throw big money at. The Indians wouldn't be able to do that, so that's why he has those. He doesn't want to be stuck being on a team that ultimately won't be able to pay him what he thinks he's worth.
And I think that's actually what it came down to. The story that came out, and the reason why he vetoed it was because the Indians told him going forward they couldn't guarantee he'd be the everyday starting catcher because we have Gomes under contract. I'm sorry, Lucroy is much better than Gomes. There's no way we would have said that. I don't buy that at all.
Didn't something else came out that it was because they wouldn't waive a part of the what was it? Shit, I thought I read something else.
They wouldn't waive his player option so he can be a free agent next year.
Yeah, after next year. Yeah, that was what
I think that was more of the big thing. He wanted guaranteed playing time in 2017, but the problem was that's moot.
He wants a long-term contract. He wants money.
He would be a free agent anyways if they would have torn up the player option, which once again, Indians trying to be smart about it. They don't want to give up their whole farm system for a guy they're going to have for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. We don't. Which is, the reason why we got Miller and the reason why we didn't, when Lucroy basically said no, we didn't try begging him. We said, okay, see you later. And he ended up going to the Rangers. To your point, Kyle, a team that doesn't care about rentals. I mean, they traded the Yankees for Beltre, who's like 40 years old and is under contract just till the end of the year. So, I mean, the Rangers are going all in, and if it doesn't work out, well, then they've got money, and they'll just, buy some more players to come there and be done.
And Beltran's a sexy pick, but I don't see what they're going to get out of him, especially in the long run. He can't play the outfield anymore. So, or if they're going to, he'd be a liability. So you're relying on a 41-year-old bat. Not to say he's not a good hitter, or he can't hit, but you're not going to get getting that trade's a win now mentality. You're not signing a 41-year-old to a lucrative deal.
Real quick on that, on the contract thing, I found the answer basically. The Indians were one of 8 teams on his no trade clause, which he updates annually. Although he previously stated he would waive the clause if it meant going to a winning team.
Yeah, I did hear that early in this. Yeah. I think at the beginning of the season or preseason or something, he said I think he expected to be traded this year and said he wants to go to a contender for the World Series. And at the time, I mean, the Indians are right there at top of the division, taking care of business. Like, there's no guarantee that any other team was going to trade for him, so I don't know.
Do you think he also vetoed it because he honestly felt he was going to get traded anyways, and he thought he'd have a good chance to going to the Rangers?
I don't know if he thought the Rangers per se or not, but there had to have been some other inkling out there.
Else. I think he knew that he was still the biggest, as far as catchers are concerned, he was the biggest commodity out there, and he was in hot demand. So even if he would have turned down the Indians, I think he would have found himself a home that maybe he would have more preferred. And just once again, he's going to the Texas Rangers, which will pay him money.
Yeah, they will. One kind of small point I just want to make is the Yankees cleaned up. They got a ton for Chapman, a ton for Miller, for Beltre. Like they made up in this, and a lot of these are rental players. They could literally turn around and sign Aroldis Chapman right back to the team next year. I don't think that'll happen, but they'll have all kinds of Yankee money that they can spend next year, and now they have a farm system. And for a team that has not finished below 500 since 1992, Like, fuck the Yankees. They're going to be just as dominant again going forward, probably next year. So kudos to Cashman for taking care of, making the right deals, knowing that his team was not going to win anything this year with the way that the rest of the AL East has been playing. And, got a lot for what they had.
Yeah, because they're going to have a solid foundation in their farming system, and they're always going to have money. So they're going to have splashy, signing deals with people. And yeah, they picked up, I believe, 5 top 25 prospects during this whole thing. So that's, I wouldn't say that's unheard of, but that's a very good job by the Yankees.
Yeah, they did a great job.
You usually don't attribute the word, selling with the Yankees.
No, because they're almost always in the playoffs or something.
They're always in the playoffs, so they always have big names that are going to draw money and is going to draw wins overall, or at least draw other players to want to play there because they do have good star power. The star power is kind of gone, but what they do have now is potential superstar power in their farming system, which is a new thing for them. So, I don't know how good they are with building talent. That's always been kind of the mid-markets game, like Cleveland, as far as like building their prospects up. So yeah, we'll see how the Yankees will look like in maybe 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other trade I just want to bring up is I thought it was just a very strange one. The Marlins had traded with the Padres and received a pitcher, Colin Rea, and because they needed some help in their lineup. Rea comes to Miami. They go through the whole physicals and all that kind of stuff that you do in normal trades and stuff. Everything's good. He goes out there and he pitches, gets into about the 4th inning, and there's some soreness. He walks off. Turns out he has some issues with a right elbow sprain, and somehow the Padres say, okay, you can trade him back to us. And they return him as though hey, we have this receipt. We want to, we don't like this defective component that you gave us. And the Padres, instead of saying well, sucks to be you guys, the Padres in typical terrible San Diego fashion said, yep, all right, we'll take him back. I just thought that was a very, very weird story because that's not something you see happen all the time. Usually it's one of those a player gets traded and he doesn't pass the other team's physical. And they're like, whoa, we're sending him back. At this point, he passed the physical and played for the team. I don't know. I'm sorry. As far as I'm concerned, screw you. You're stuck with him.
What do you expect? Honestly, I know we don't know too much about baseball. One thing I do know, and just seeing from the past maybe 3 years of the Padres, that is such a hot mess of a baseball team. They went out and went all in on grabbing a bunch of, free agent talent not too long ago. Getting guys like Matt Kemp and others, and they trade away Matt Kemp. They trade away. They basically I think they just outright admitted that it's a failure. We can't afford to keep this talent because they're a mid-market team. There's no way that this is going to be sustainable. So they sell it all back, basically.
Yeah, that's the Padres for you. So, we'll kind of move off the trade.
That's the dads for you.
Nice.
The good old papas.
That's glad we have our Spanish-speaking friend here to translate for us. As we kind of wind down the podcast, though, we got a couple tight division races. Why don't we go through everyone's predictions on who we think are going to win? We can go through every division, I suppose, even the ones that aren't tight. And then pick your, World Series matchups and winners, that kind of thing. See if it's changed since the preseason. And that'll kind of wrap things up for baseball. So we'll start in the American League. Probably the tightest race we've got is the AL East. Currently, the Orioles are on top. Blue Jays a game behind. The Red Sox 2 games behind. And the Yankees sitting there at 7.5, but again, they sold out, so they are probably done. And the Rays are 18 games out, so See you later, Tampa Bay. What are you guys? Who do you think takes this division?
I will, like Hougie said earlier, I feel like the Orioles have even though it's tight right now, I feel like the Orioles will end up taking that division.
I'll stick with my pick and say the Orioles as well, although I will say I have a feeling that both the Blue Jays and the Red Sox are my picks for the wild card one-game series.
So you think everybody's coming out of the East?
Yeah, obviously other than the Yankees and the Rays. But yes, I think the Red Sox have slowed down a little bit, but I mean, none of those three teams have really shown much sign of weakness, and everyone's pretty healthy, and none of them really big losers at the trade deadline. So I think the Tigers will taper off in the Central, and the Astros have not been impressive to me. So I would say that at least 3 of the 5 in the East will make the playoffs in some way, shape, or form.
Interesting. Give me the Blue Jays. They were my preseason pick. I'm still thinking that Toronto's going to take that division. I will agree with you, Kyle, that at least one of those other 2 teams will make the playoffs in the wild card. My pick is Boston, and that's just because it's Boston. I think I don't have anything other than that shit. Just Boston gets, that's what they do. We'll move to the Central. This is the one near and dear to our hearts. As I said earlier, I think the Indians will hold off the Tigers. I don't know how many more games we have left with them, but we've been playing them so well this year that I think it's going to be enough for us to hold on to that division.
I'll agree. I'll go Indians.
Oh, agreeing. That's classic Haddix right there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kyle, what about you?
I mean, Central right now has been garbage except for the Indians, and then we have the Tigers number. So if it comes down to it, now don't get me wrong, the Tigers have been playing awesome. They're like on a 7-game winning streak. I can't see that sticking around. I think the Indians keep it.
Oh, classic Hougie agreeing. Jeez.
And I think we're going to be all on the same page that the Rangers already 5.5 up on the Astros after making those trades are just going to coast their way into an AL West division crown.
Yeah, the pitching in Houston has been kind of a disappointment, especially in their
Houston,
ace
we have a
cycle.
problem, right?
With this guy being topical in current events. But yeah, Keuchel hasn't been doing that well. He needs to be, and I think it's too much for them to catch up to the Rangers. Maybe Houston fights for a spot in the wild card, but
I don't think they're going to get it.
I don't think they're going to get it either.
I think it's, to your point, I think it's going to be Tigers, Indians, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles. Like between those 5 teams, the
4 of them will probably see their way in,
right?
Some way, shape, or form.
So that what's your American League Championship matchup, and who's going to the World Series?
Real quick, what were our old ones before we give our new ones? Just so we have.
We didn't do an American League Championship. We just did an American League team.
Oh, okay. You're saying both. What 2 teams? Okay.
What 2 teams are going to play each other, and who's going to the World Series?
Gotcha. Go ahead, Hoagland.
As of right now, it looks like, just statistically and how well everyone's playing, I can see the Rangers and the Orioles. And with how good the Orioles have been at home, they're the best home team in majors. If they are able to get home field advantage, which right now they wouldn't, they're only a game back on the Rangers. If they're able to do that, then I can see them going to the World Series over the Rangers.
I'm going to go Orioles, Rangers as well, but I think with the trades, with how well the Rangers have been doing in the trades they've made, I think the Rangers go to the World Series.
Give me the Blue Jays and the Indians.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, I think the Rangers are going to stumble in the postseason. I think Lucroy's going to fuck them, and
Just like
that's not the bitter fan in me or anything like that. And I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction that the Blue Jays are going to the World Series.
So you're being a little bit homer picking the Indians, but you're not picking them to go all the way.
How much % of that is stubbornness, and how much of that is you really believing that?
It's 100% stubbornness and 100% homerism right there, and I just want to be right with my preseason prediction. So
I got you. I got you.
It's 0% factual whatsoever. Actually, that's not true. It's like
no stats or
it's 10% stats because I am picking teams that are leading their divisions. So give me that much, anyways.
Yeah.
Let's move to the National League. In the NL East, we got the Marlins and the Nationals there. Marlins 7 games back, trading back Rhea. Is anybody picking anyone other than the Nationals to win that division?
I actually think I'm going to go the Braves.
That's a brave decision right there.
No, Nationals for sure.
The only thing the Marlins are going to be interesting going forward is whether or not Ichiro gets 2 more hits to get to 3,000. Other than that, it's Nationals all the way.
That's a whole discussion for another. That's a whole debate right there. Whether you count that as what is it? The most hits all time. I mean, he'll get his 3,000, but then you can discuss the whole Pete Rose record and stuff.
Yeah, the other 1,300 or whatever he has in Japan.
Right. Yeah,
that's another discussion.
Okay, the NL Central. We've got Cubs, Cardinals. Cardinals almost 10 games back. Again, are we all picking the Cubs to win this division?
Yeah, Cubs.
I can't see. There's no evidence to say the Cardinals or anyone else is going to catch up. So, yeah, Cubs.
All right, and then things get a little interesting. We got the NL West with the Kyle Hoagland's favorite San Francisco Giants and the LA Dodgers.
I'll say New York Giants haven't been around. Well, the football Giants. Anyways, go ahead.
What's your pick?
The Rockies? No, yeah. I think I think the Dodgers can make a legitimate push for it. I think them putting Yasiel Puig back to the minors and just admitting that he's almost been a detriment to the team, where I think they can get a more solid person at right field. I think the Dodgers will be interesting. I think the Giants are too complete to lose, so I will go with the Giants.
I'm going to go with the Peyton Manning-led New York Giants.
Nice.
And by that I mean Eli Manning.
Did you say Peyton Manning?
I thought you just did that on purpose, to be completely honest.
The only thing Peyton's leading is Papa John's.
Who's your pick, Kiser?
I am taking the Giants as well. That said, who are the wild card teams? I mean, the Dodgers, obviously. Then the Cardinals. Are the Cardinals going to make the playoffs?
And the Marlins are there too. I think I think the Cardinals and the Marlins both have the same win percentage. Of those, I'll say. I feel like the Cardinals just know how to get in the playoffs.
That's what I take I'd take the Cardinals for that reason. All right, National League Championship matchup, and who's going to that World Series, guys?
Giants, Cubs, Giants going to the World Series.
I'll go Nationals, Cubs, Nationals making it to the World Series.
Wow, this guy picking against his own home team. I got Cubs, Giants. Give me the Cubs. I'm sticking with my Cubs, Jays preseason prediction. And taking the Cubs to win that World Series, break that curse. I said back in episode 17 I'd like to see curses be broken, and then the Cavs went ahead and broke that Cleveland curse. The Cubs are going to go ahead and break that baseball curse.
You were right about the, not in the amount of games, but you were right about the Cavs winning. So,
yep. How about you guys? Who's winning your World Series?
I'm going to go with the Giants. Statistically proven for every even year for the past, 2?
Last 2 even years.
Last 2 even years.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with the Giants.
I will say Nationals.
All right. That's a bold prediction there, Kyle.
I don't know how bold that is. I mean, they're technically like the second best team in baseball.
I know, but they just seem to be the team that's forgotten about when it comes to discussing it.
I just feel like at this point they're overall the most capable, other than maybe the Giants. But I think Washington's got their number this year. All
right. Well, there you have it. I'm sure we'll be back for a World Series preview or review or something at some point, and we can laugh at our predictions as per usual.
As the Brewers come from behind and take it all.
That's right, without Lucroy. Fuck him. So that's going to wrap things up for this week's podcast. Don't forget to go to pseudonerdpod.com, subscribe on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Leave us some feedback on iTunes, something that not many people have done. Next week, what are we doing next week, Haddix?
We are doing I believe, let me double check this to make sure, but we should be doing the movie.
I think we're doing The Killing Joke.
No, I'm sorry. Next week is The Killing Joke, yes.
Okay, so it is The Killing
Joke review.
We will review that. So if you're interested in The Killing Joke, go out and watch it, buy it on demand, watch it on digital copies, whatever. We'll talk about it next week. From Lakewood to North Olmsted to the home of the Doily bedroom, I'm Josh Kiser. He is Josh Haddix, and he's Kyle Hoagland. And we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
Shannon Sands Butt Plug Emporium. See ya.